Hello and welcome to KPFK's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections, where you will hear from various listener candidates. I'm Jose Benavides. I am the moderator of the program. The topics to be discussed cover key topics facing KPFK and the Pacifica Foundation as a whole, and questions submitted directly by KPFK members. Please note that all viewpoints presented are those of participants and do not reflect the position of the Pacifica Foundation or KPFK. The program starts with opening statements, followed by a debate covering topics selected from a predefined topic list, and ending with questions from listener members. The order of the candidates and topics has been selected by using a random sequence generator from random.org. This hour, we are joined by Michael Novick, Mike Bressler, Nancy Pearlman, and Robert Payne. Before starting the debate, each candidate has 1 minute to make an opening statement. You will then have, once you hear the bell, you'll have 10 seconds, and then you'll begin with opening your statement. And now for the candidate opening statements, Michael Novick, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Hi, thanks. I am Michael Novick. I'm currently the chair of the KPFK Local Station Board. I'm running for re-election to the board with the Grassroots Community Radio Coalition. You can get more information at gcrc-socal.org. I'm running because I think that KPFK needs to refresh and rebrand itself to meet the needs of a new generation of listeners. Unfortunately, we have exhausted many of the current listeners with incessant fund drives. And I think this reflects the fact that we need to improve our community engagement and our relationship with the movements that are helping to shape the future of this city, this region, and the country. So I think that we have tremendous potential. Pacifica is in most of the major media markets in the United States, including here in LA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Bressler, you have 1 minute. Go ahead and unmute your phone there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mike Bressler, and I'm a political science instructor and a longtime environmentalist and a very long time listener to KPFK. I haven't run for the board before, so this is a new thing, but I think it's a pretty important time for changing in a way the direction that the station is going. We've been losing listeners, and I think the programming can be improved, and I think we're all in the same boat in terms of recognizing some of the problems and hopefully on recognizing some of the solutions. The main thing I want to kind of emphasize is that I think that in this time of environmental crisis that we're seeing unfold right before us, that I would like the station to have a bit more emphasis.
Time. Okay. Thank you. Nancy Pearlman, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being on the local station board again to move it forward. The station needs a change to be stronger, better. It's a fantastic opportunity. When I served for a year, I had a lot of ideas. Unfortunately, I had to discontinue my service due to the fact that I was running for another political office. I'm an environmentalist for 50 years, an anthropologist, an activist for social change and justice. And I truly believe that we have an opportunity to reinvigorate KPFK with a board that will see the potential for what the station can offer. We need to work on fundraising, we need to work on programming, we need to work on relationships with communities throughout the Southern California area. The reach is fantastic. It's a marvelous opportunity. I have been in radio for
Time.
44 years.
Thank you, Nancy. Robert Payne, you have 1 minute.
This is Robert Payne speaking. I am a one-issue candidate for KPFK, the survival of KPFK. Our nation now endures disaster. Corporate media hit us with this disaster. They played that loudmouth TV star with the comb-over hairdo for an entire all-day, all-night campaign to make money, a clown to keep the American public entertained. The media corporations made billions of dollars. Remember when media corporations put ads on TV of athletes smoking cigarettes? They made billions of dollars. Tobacco killed millions of Americans. And the wars? The corporations gave us wars as entertainment. They sell clowns, they sell drugs, they sell wars. KPFK is not corporate. KPFK must survive. I am a one-issue candidate, the survival of KPFK and Pacifica. If you want to see more, you want to read my ideas, go to videoadventures, one word, .info. Video Adventures,
Time.
INFO for Robert Payne.
Time. We now move on to the debate. The debate format consists of assigning one topic to one candidate as determined by the initial random sequence and allowing the candidate 2 minutes to develop their answer. All other candidates following the order defined by the initial random sequence get 30 seconds each to comment or ask a follow-up question. The structure iterates through all candidates until all have had the opportunity to address the topic in depth. Michael Novick, this first question is for you. What is your vision for the future of your station and the Pacific as a whole? What types of changes do you see as necessary for KPFK and Pacifica in the near future? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, as I was saying, I think that the vital necessity in the immediate future is greater community engagement with the movements that are shaping the future of this city. We have people in tenants unions. We have the Fight for 15 for low-paid workers. We have Black Lives Matter. We have the American Indian movement. All of those groups are out in society making changes in the world, and they have to have more voice on our airwaves. I think it's vital that we deepen and develop media partnerships so that we can move into audiovisual productions and take the spirit of social media, which is many to many, and interactivity, and bring it into our broadcast operations. I think we need to be on multiple channels and using our platform on the radio to augment YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and all the other methods, TikTok and Twitch, that people are using to communicate now, and bring a new generation of content producers and of struggles that are shaping the world, including the struggle against war. I think it's vital that Pacifica take a strong stand against the new Cold War and against the military intervention and sanctions against countries that are outside the orbit of the U.S. empire. And I think that in doing that, we will engage with listeners and movements, interfaith bodies that are struggling against right-wing fascist elements in the society. And by doing so, we will tap into the energies and the creativity, cultural expressions, and the production of content that's going on without us, unfortunately. And I think when we do that, we will bring a whole new set of listeners and vital information to all of our listeners. And I think that will restore the financial base of the station.
Mike Bressler, you have 30 seconds to respond. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay. I think there's both the long-term future and the short-term future. In the short-term future, we want to kind of turn things around financially, improve membership. In the broader long-term view, I would like to see KPFK sort of get to the place where, in a way, we used to be as both a voice and a vision for people that are opposed to what's been going on.
Time. Nancy, you have 30 seconds. Go ahead and unmute your phone.
Indeed, the vision of KPFK is broad, and we need to engulf all of the communities, all of the issues. I have believed for decades that we need to incorporate more programming on more issues that affect our communities, engage everybody on that. We need to strengthen the local board and stop having the cliques that are controlling it.
Time. Robert, you have 30 seconds.
This is Robert Payne speaking. I have worked with Michael Novick. He is a very steady and very calm leader of the meetings. I know how to do exactly what he says. I have made more money gaming, YouTube, and Google advertising than I did as a professor. I have made thousands of viewers of videos. I have manipulated videos to gain 200,000 views of a little cell phone video.
Time. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next topic now. Mike Bressler, this is your topic. Please define listener democracy. What is your view on listener democracy? Do you feel listener democracy is working well or poorly at KPFK? And Pacifica, suggest ways that you can improve listener democracy. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. I view listener democracy as something that can and has been a strong point of Pacifica and KPFK. The opportunity for people from diverse segments of the population, of diverse communities, to become involved in terms of having a voice. I think that there's always a problem I've run across as a long-term member of environmental groups. You generally have a small proportion of people that actually do take advantage of the opportunity to participate in decision-making and in deciding directions. And there's two things that I think are important to consider here. One is that I think as a station, it would be beneficial to have more outreach to existing groups, and I think primarily in terms of environmental groups, but community groups in general, environmental justice. I think that there are communities in our area that would benefit from more attention given to the issues that we're struggling with, and also they offer the opportunity for on-site expertise. And so I would like to see us get more involved and become maybe even a focal point for contact and involvement by
Time.
outside groups.
Nancy, you have 30 seconds.
I agree that we need to reach out to more communities, engage more organizations and activists, and we need to make the process simpler and easier for individuals and groups to be engaged and involved with the station. Attending the meetings, I was distressed that we didn't allow interaction with the public speakers, and they were limited with their time. And I think that process needs to be improved and changed. And
Thank you. Robert, you have 30 seconds.
This is Robert Payne speaking. There should not be a distinction between inside and outside. Every program producer should be reaching out to their listeners, listening to their listeners, programming in accordance to their listeners' desires. Also, people on the outside should gather their groups together, form a program, and then present it to KPFK. If they come to the station with 10,000 subscribers in Los Angeles, they can receive a
Time.
hearing with the staff.
Time. Michael, you have 30 seconds.
Thanks. Yeah, since I became chair of the local station board, we've opened up the email address for everyone to be able to address the board. That's lsb@kpfk.org. We passed a new protocol to make it easier for listeners to join the LSB committees, and they can check those out on kpftx.org. They're all listed every month, and people are open to participate fully in the committee meetings. We do have public comment at the general meetings of a half hour, which we've divided up into segments so that listeners can comment on specific parts of the agenda. And I'd like to rebuild the Friends of KPFK.
Time. We're moving on to the next topic. Nancy, this is your topic. What do you think is the most serious problem needing the most immediate attention at KPFK and Pacifica? What do you propose as a solution for the problem? You have 2 minutes.
Pacifica needs to regain its financial stability. I am distressed to hear that some buildings might be sold for money. I'm distressed that there are court cases between the different factions in Pacifica where membership money is being utilized to fight each other. There should be better ways to work together to resolve the dilemma to get Pacifica and KPFK on a stronger foothold. In terms of KPFK, I believe that we need to work on increasing programming that reaches out on many different issues, especially myself as an environmentalist for over 50 years, having a radio show, the longest running environmental radio show in the country on the environment. It hasn't been on KPFK because KPFK has not devoted itself to environmental programming. And yet we all know that climate change is a major critical issue affecting all communities. There are so many other issues where we need to have strong programming, and we need to have programming that reaches out. We need to have a way, not just to have on broadcast, which is fantastic, that you can turn on the station on your radio, but for younger people who enjoy the computer and who enjoy the cell phones, to listen in other ways and to participate in other ways. We need to utilize the YouTubes and put programming on in a way that it brings in some dollars. It is possible. So we need to work on funding. We need to work on programming. We need to work on engagement in communities to support the progressive message that I remember KPFK when in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. We need to get other programming. Even as an ethnic folk dancer, we need to get more ethnic music from around the world.
Time. Thank you. Robert, you have 30 seconds.
To respond to the problems with KPFK, if KPFK is to survive, each individual producer must assemble their own staff. They need to work YouTube. They need to work the Google search results. They need to work Instagram, all of it. They need to build up their own listenership and move that listenership to KPFK. Each individual group of listeners can become an income stream. We need 1,000 rivers flowing into the ocean to finance KPFK.
Time. Michael, you have 30. Michael Novick, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, KPFK a little over a decade ago had probably close to over 40,000 members. Now we're down to about 10. I think it's vital that we rebuild our audience. I think there are ways to do it. We need to restore an hour-long local evening newscast that covers housing, policing, education, labor. We need to restore a morning co-hosted magazine show that covers local news, public affairs, and cultural expression and creativity. I think that the Pacific Radio Archives, which is housed in our facility, can monetize its content. Thank you.
Time. Mike Bressler, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. I believe the most important thing we need to do is to turn around the membership decline. and we can do this by improving programming and reaching out to community and local groups. And I think, again, what's important here is to create a real vision for this station and a real sense of solidarity among viewers or listeners.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to the next topic. Robert, this topic is for you. What areas of national policy do you think are most in need of development? And what do you believe would be the appropriate respective roles of the local station board and its appointees to the Pacifica National Board to work with the executive directors towards defining and implementing such policies? Robert, you have 2 minutes.
This is Robert Payne speaking. First of all, I have not worked on the national Pacifica level. However, I have worked on the local station board. The local station board does not represent the knowledge and experience required to make a successful network. We have 5 stations. We have hundreds of affiliates. We need people who can work the thousands and thousands of listeners all over the country into a coherent stream of intelligence. People who are intelligent and commenting on the when I hear the word national, I think of the United States. The United States needs alternative media. If we can assemble the affiliates, if we can make an intelligent network of contributors moving ideas and projects forward to the national leadership, we can have influence on this network. The Pacifica network could equal anything else out there. Remember, the cable news network started with a hodgepodge of TV stations, a hodgepodge. They worked together. They built up their membership. Individuals throughout the United States and the world contributed. They made a network from almost nothing. We don't have any capital. We don't have Ted Turner's money, but we do have the people. If we can move the individuals to contribute to the several stations, we can remake the national board policy so that we become an international network.
Thank you. Michael Novick, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, I was involved in the creation of COVID Race and Democracy. It's a national Pacifica show that's produced by unpaid programmers at all 5 stations and many of our over 200 affiliates. I think it's an example of what we can do and should be doing more of. I've pushed for a strategic planning process nationally, but also at each local station, engaging with the paid and unpaid staff and our listeners, along with management and governance, to identify where we're trying to get to and how we can get there step by step. How can we apply the resources we do have, the talent we do have, to improve the programming and our outreach and engagement with the community.
Mike Bressler, you have 30 seconds. Go ahead and unmute your computer.
Okay. Well, I think the LSBs have to play an important role in this because we have to have local input, and this is where it comes from ultimately. But I think, there's been a lot of factionalism, shall we say, among different groups. And I think that's unfortunate for the radio station. And I would like to see us, have more of a common cause so we could deal with some of these challenges.
Thank you. Nancy, you have 30 seconds.
I believe that indeed the local station board needs people on it with expertise who know how to run a radio station. My TV show's been on 200 stations nationwide. My radio show has been on the #1 commercial radio station for 17 years. I've seen radio stations operate. We need to bring expertise from people like myself who have been on boards of directors and boards of advisory and have seen organizations run.
Time. Okay. Thank you for that. We will now move in to selected questions from a list that was submitted by listener members, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. We will take as many questions as time allows. The first question is, what do you know about the financial problems of KPFK and Pacifica as a whole? How do you propose to resolve these problems? We begin with Michael. Michael Novick, you have 1 minute.
Yes, KPFK in particular has had a problem because its budget has not been in balance. We allowed our staff to grow when we had a period of time we were raising $1 million at a time in 10 days of fundraising. We no longer have that capacity. We do have to economize. We need to rely more heavily on unpaid staff and on community-based productions. I think that the other thing, as I mentioned, is I believe that the Pacifica Radio Archives can monetize its content. It has enormous valuable material, but we also are producing, we need to produce new material of that archival quality that people will pay to hear. I think we can go into podcasting and monetize that. If we were producing audiovisual, we would have the capacity to have advertising on a YouTube channel and other ways to raise income that we can't do over the air. We don't want to go into corporate subsidized programming like NPR because we want to maintain our freedom of speech. But I think in other channels, we have the ability to raise money.
Thank you. Mike Bressler, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I agree. The station and Pacifica have been having financial difficulties, and that's going to require a couple of things. One is turning around membership, so we instead of improving membership numbers, and the other is alternative ways of raising money. And I think if you want to look at alternative ways of raising money, we do need to look at least once COVID is open, maybe, and I think this has been tried and probably needs to be worked out, but more in-person sorts of fundraising events. I think we need to check back into the Corporation for Public Programming. I'm sorry, I'm blacking on the name. And I think we also would want to improve programming to improve membership numbers and have a broader base.
Nancy, you have 1 minute.
I believe we all want to see the station on better footing, and that means that we do need to increase funding. How do we do it? I've seen the budget. I've seen the fact that we need to economize, we need to reorganize where the money is being spent, how it's being spent, and look at how we're raising it. Constant fundraising efforts is not bringing in the membership. We have to pursue new options, new opportunities. Not getting our audits done on time. We lost money from the national broadcasting, public broadcasting system. That needs to be changed. We need to meet our requirements so we can bring in money. There are foundations. I just saw that the Cultural Survival nonprofit organization got $900,000 for their broadcasting efforts. We need to be applying for the grants so that we can do it and not depend on the corporate donors. But we need to get sponsorship, and we need to organize events and monetize what we have, the resources that we have via
time. Thank you. Robert, you have 1 minute to answer. Robert, you have 1 minute.
His phone is muted, I think.
Hey, Robert.
Hello, I was put on mute.
Okay.
Am I speaking now?
You're speaking now. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
This is Robert Payne speaking. There were many mistakes in the past. There is a debt overhanging the Pacifica chain of stations. We cannot sell buildings. We will never make enough money to buy back the existing buildings. However, if every programmer, if every producer of every program manages their own operations in such a way as not only are they self-sufficient, but they can raise enough money to pay for the programs that the Pacifica mission statement requires that we put out. We are a humanist operation. We do this for people, not for corporate profit. However, everybody involved in radio can gain listeners and gain contributions, if not from Los Angeles, then from California, United States, and the world. The KPFK
Time.
and the Pacifica are international.
Time. Second question. What can be done to shorten the fund drives and make existing fund drives more interesting? Let's begin with Michael Novick.
Well, I think the key to shortening the fund drives is rebuilding our audience with our regular programming. I think that it is possible to put in high quality programming during the fund drives based on community needs and interests. I think that we have to revive our CAB, which I'm in the process of trying to do. I recruited Dan McCrory, who ran the CAB for KCET, and he's interested in working with us, possibly to do some joint work between KCET and KPFK. I think that as we rebuild our base of listeners, when we once had over 40,000, we're down to 10. We used to be able to raise $1 million in 10 days. So I think we'll, if we have programming that meets community needs, and if we, I think it's very important to look at this question of foundation grants. There's something now called the Peace and Security funding group, and they're trying to confine peace organizations in the United States to back the Biden foreign policy. I think that's a very dangerous, slippery slope.
Mike Bressler, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I would have to agree that at the heart of turning around funding is increasing membership, and increasing membership is a matter of improving programming. And again, I think we have to have programming that is more that more people can identify with, that is more relevant to people in our communities. And again, I would bring up the environmental issue, because I think this is something KPFK has been very relatively weak on, and I think it's becoming so important now and visible that we need to grab onto this sort of thing, to the humanist and environmentalist issues in a stronger way than we have. And I think if we can do this in a way that grabs people's attention, it'll be good.
Thank you. Nancy, same question. You have 1 minute.
Fundraising drives are necessary, but as was pointed out, the membership has been reduced. We have to think outside of the box, change the method. I've been listening to fundraising drives on other stations. We need to change the way we do it. People will turn off the station if it goes on and on and on and on, asking for money, 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 and they're not doing it. The programming needs to be interesting. The appeal needs to be short and sweet, and then move on to the programming. And it doesn't have to be limited to those 10 days. If you do it that way, you can ask for the funding and the dollars quickly, simply, and then have interesting program to keep people tuned to the station. You also need to have programming in prime time that doesn't turn people off, that brings in the dollars, and that everybody can hear and understand and listen to, of interest to the broader community and not to a small select group of people. That's not what we're about. So,
Time. Robert, you have 1 minute.
I would like to build on a detail that Nancy Pearlman mentioned. That is the endless fund drives. In commercial television and commercial radio, people accept the breaks between the programs for commercials. If we had very brief appeals for fundraising in between the programs, we might make more money. However, we also have to go out into the community. The isolation, the pandemic isolation, is a terrible burden on us now. In the past, we could put on events that brought in thousands of people. We can't do that. It'd be difficult to do that now. However, we can have programs that go to the world and draw in listeners and perhaps members. These programs going out to the world can gain ad revenue because these programs, music programs, always gain listening time. A dramatic program can also gain listening time, watching time.
Thank you. The third question is, do you have any ideas on how Pacifica can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences? Michael Novick, 1 minute.
Well, yes, I think that, as I said, I think if we bring more of the interactive, many-to-many ethos of social media into our broadcast operations and also activate more of these other platforms ranging from TikTok and Twitch to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, Instagram Live. I think a lot of people are consuming their media in that way because they see it as a way that they can both consume and produce. I think we have to have that spirit of interactivity and respect our audience as people who are capable of producing content as well as absorbing it. I think that, as I said, we need to restore our local hour-long newscast covering. We can have young people reporting on their own schools and their own struggles. Students at LA Unify this year successfully forced the local school board to reduce the funding of the LA School Police. They won a victory to end wanding of students at random. So I think if we capture those anti-racist struggles, we'll bring new listeners in.
Mike Bressler, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I would say there's two aspects to this again. One is the programming, and I think it's important to have more programming that appeals to younger people because that's a pretty critical audience these days. And I think they would be very open to programming that in particular reaches their interests. And, in terms of my experiences, at the college level, I would say that, again, the environmental issue is very important, but there's also, we have to focus on issues of racism, and we have to a certain extent, but we have to do this in a way that's a little more of and by the people that are involved. And
Time. Thank you, Mike Bressler. Let's go to Nancy. You have 1 minute.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Let's see. Do you have any ideas on how Pacifica can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences?
Yes, and I would like to agree with my fellow panelists here. They have excellent ideas, and we should be pursuing new programming that addresses the younger people. I have been an instructor in the school system since 1979 and in the community college system since the 90s as an instructor and as a trustee. And all we have to do is ask these young people, what do they want to hear on the radio? What stations are they tuning in? Why? We find out and we incorporate those ideas. As an environmentalist involved in many, many organizations over the decades, I have found that a lot of young people don't want to join the older groups, but they form new groups with new ways of tackling the same issues that we can work together. And we need to have a voice for all these new groups, for environmental justice, social justice, political justice.
Time. Thank you. Robert, you have 1 minute.
This is Robert Payne speaking. We need to experiment. We need to learn from experimentation. Who are our listeners? Who are interested in what we can broadcast and what we can show on video? One old movie that I put out got 2 million something views and increased my membership by thousands. I did an experiment with a young dancer, a cell phone video. I took that from 500 views, experimented with it, got it up to 200,000 of this beautiful young woman dancing. That is the sort of community outreach that all of our music programs can do. Our political programs, I did that with Chris Hedges. He was announced on the radio. I put up an ad on YouTube. I got 3,000 informational inquiries in 36 hours. That was a turnaway event. Thousands of people saw that. Thousands of people knew that KPFK was a venue for progressive ideas.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're just going to do the closing statements. Each candidate has 1 minute. Let's begin with Michael Novick. You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Yes, thanks. This is Michael Novick, again, the current chair of the local station board. I was first time I was the chair, I was elected on a 12-12 tie vote on a coin toss and was able to have a year of successful joint activities of the board. I value the ability to bring together people with different points of view. I think it's essential that we do the kind of community engagement, not just where gatekeepers have their guests on, but where we're turning the airways of the station over to some of these community groups and young people, the Sunrise Movement, the SoCal 350, and so on. I think that Black Lives Matter, Youth Vanguard, all of these groups can be on our airwaves directly. So if you're interested in that kind of approach, check out more at gcrc-socal.org. That's the Grassroots Community Radio Coalition. You can reach me at mnovick.kpfklsb@gmail.com. And thanks for your support for KPFK, and keep listening. Really appreciate all the listeners out there. And I think this is a vital election.
Thank you, Michael Novick. Mike Bressler, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Hi, this is Mike Bressler. I'm a long-term environmentalist, primarily with the Sierra Club, and I've had a significant amount of experience working with this group and seeing the issues and the problems that arise with a nonprofit group. And I think that I would like to see KPFK turn around in terms of its membership numbers. And I think that one of the ways we can do this is by teaming up with outside groups like the Sierra Club, like the various environmental and community groups, and have a bit of symbiosis, working together, and we can provide a voice. They can also provide expertise. And together, I think we need to work together in this age where we're seeing growing demagoguery, political demagoguery, and wannabe fascism.
Thank you. Nancy Pearlman, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I'm Nancy Pearlman. I started listening to KPFK in the 60s when I was a folk dancer, listening to world music. In the 90s, I was co-host of Planet Health, co-host of Feminist Magazine Radio, and just a couple of years ago, I was on the local station board. I have been an elected official as a trustee for the Los Angeles Community College District for 16 years. I know how organizations work. I know how media works. I've been in media for over 44 years, actually for 50 years as a guest, but hosting and producing programming, over 2,500 shows. And I believe that the expertise that I can bring as a broadcaster, as an anthropologist, as an environmentalist who cares about our community, who cares about our station, who cares about educating the public via the media, I can provide that expertise. And it's important that we have experienced people like myself on the board to work together with my colleagues.
Time. Robert Payne, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
This is Robert Payne speaking. To read more of what I would like to say, go to my website, videoadventures.info, videoadventures.information. I have worked with Mr. Novick. He is a steady, calm fellow. He's a good leader of the local station board. With Mr. Bressler, we certainly need more environmental input. However, we really need experience also. We need people like Nancy Pearlman, who've got a lifetime of experience in broadcasting and production. I have worked in many nations throughout this world, and I know one thing, is that Los Angeles is an international city. We have so many people here who could contribute to KPFK. We need to exploit them for our advantage. They can join, they can contribute, they can program. We need them in KPFK and Pacifica.
For more information, visit elections.pacifica.org. For all questions and to file a ballot request form, make sure to cast your ballot before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, October 15th, 2021. Thank you.